Frank, right at the end of the game, Adrian Wojnarowski tweeted that the Lakers are going to be firing you, a decision they'll let you know tomorrow. Have you communicated with the front office at all about your future? And I guess what's your reaction to hearing that?
My reaction is I haven't been told, and I'm going to enjoy tonight's game, celebrate what these young guys did in terms of scratching the claw and getting back in this game, getting a W, and we'll deal with tomorrow.
Did that get back to you before you walked in this room?
Yes.
Did that affect?
You heard it from the man himself. Frank Vogel was not aware that he was going to be fired, at least not from the Lakers organization, after the end of that game, where Woj was already tweeting that he was going to be let go. If it's true that they leaked this to Woj before having a one-on-one conversation with Frank Vogel, that's messed up. Because at the end of the day, Frank Vogel was a professional. He showed up to do his job. He won a championship with the Lakers. And whether we agree with Frank Vogel's decision-making, the rotations, any of that, it's my humble opinion that there is a professional way to go about doing things when people haven't done anything to deserve that underhanded, sneaky stuff. He doesn't deserve to find out that he's losing his job from the media and have to address it in a public fashion before having an opportunity to process it and have a conversation with the people that are actually firing him. But again, this is just a testament to how dysfunctional the Lakers back office is. If you ask me, should Frank Vogel have been fired? Did they need to fire him? It doesn't matter what I really think about this, because I don't think that they had a choice. And I'll tell you why. Very clearly, Frank Vogel did not have control of this team. I went to a game where the Lakers played against Boston at TD Bank in Boston, and when they had timeouts and everyone was supposed to come over and kind of listen to whatever the strategy was, none of the veteran players were paying attention to him at all. They weren't even really in the huddle. Russell Westbrook kept going back into the tunnel. He was having a horrible game. They ended up losing that game even though they were up for a period of time. And he would get frustrated and then run back to the back. People were all over the place. I never saw it, and I've watched a lot of basketball, I've played basketball. I never saw a team energy where everyone was listening to the coach and figuring out a strategy for winning. People were just kind of doing their own thing. And there's another story that comes out, and again, this is all alleged, that during one of the earlier practices with Frank Vogel and Russell Westbrook, Frank Vogel gave the directive that anyone who rebounds the ball can bring the ball up the court, and Russell Westbrook wasn't feeling this strategy. He felt that they needed to give the ball to him because, quote unquote, he's the point guard, which is laughable. But again, we're not going to make the video about that. And Frank Vogel wasn't able to explain to him in a fashion that Russell Westbrook could understand that, no, what I say goes, I'm the coach. And if you start out this way with the other players seeing that they can have their way, then you're not necessarily going to get the respect that you deserve when you're coaching players who have been in the league for over 10 years. And so if you don't command the respect of men, if you're supposed to be a leader of men, then obviously that's a red flag, and it's going to become challenging to impossible to get everyone on board if they're not even really paying attention to whatever you have to say. With that said, I do believe that Russell Westbrook is uncoachable. There might be a coach out there that's going to, if they want to get into a you-know-what measuring contest, that's going to show Russell Westbrook that I could care less about your experience, I could care less about your triple-doubles, I could care less about your fragile little ego. Either you do what I say or you sit on the bench and I'll play whoever's behind you, because I'll take my chances with that person than to have someone out there who's supposed to be me on the court, the coach on the court, who's not even listening to a word that I have to say. So please miss me with that. You can't win when your point guard isn't having a good communication with the coach of the team. How do you execute on a strategy if the strategy that the coach is trying out is not being managed and executed by your point guard? It's impossible, especially if the point guard is essentially refusing to give up the ball. But that's another story for another video. The other thing that makes me really, I'll use the word astonished again, is that Frank Vogel was not involved in the creation of this roster. Like, how do you have a coach who is not involved in what players the team is looking to add to the roster? This is less about Russell Westbrook and more about his relationship with Jeannie Buss, Rob Pelinka, and LeBron James. We know the story. There could be some holes in this, but Rob Pelinka had Buddy Hield and DeMar DeRozan pretty much locked in. LeBron James and AD went over Rob Pelinka's head and lobbied to kill those deals and get Russell Westbrook, a guy who was paid $44 million plus this year and is slated to be paid $47 million for next year's season. And there were many people who've watched a lot of basketball, and I'm going to highlight Skip Bayless here. Skip Bayless, not my favorite guy, but he's super entertaining. I do have respect for many of the things that he says sometimes, because sometimes he's spot on. He's like, this is going to be a complete disaster, because at the end of the day, Russell Westbrook is not, he's like a bad apple that can essentially spoil the whole bunch. He's not going to help the Lakers get to a championship, which is what they said they put this team together to do, win a championship. They didn't even make it into the play-in tournament. And at the end of the day, like Skip Bayless or not, he was right. And this goes back to Jeannie Buss. We can blame Frank Vogel. We can blame Rob Pelinka. We can blame LeBron James. We can blame a whole host of people. But at the end of the day, Jeannie Buss, this is her team. And in order for this team to get to where they want to go, somebody is going to have to say, we are getting on a unified page. We're going to have a unified vision for where this team wants to go. And we're going to have a unified strategy that's okay and backed by me to get us from where we are now to where we want to go. That might mean that she needs to cut Rob Pelinka loose. That might mean that she needs to present an ultimatum to LeBron James. She's already decided that Frank Vogel needs to go, which frankly, no pun intended, he does need to go, because he doesn't have the respect of this team. And it'll be hard for him to come back after a full season with the season deteriorating the way that it did, for him to come back and correct these kind of disrespectful dynamics that he has with certain players, or the lack of respect that he commands with the players. I'll just put it like that. And who should they use to replace him? I don't know, but I know one thing. You need a coach that veteran players respect. You can't bring in a brand new guy who they're going to question, who they're going to challenge whoever it is. But it does remind me of that moment when they had the opportunity to put Tyronn Lue in place. Tyronn Lue, don't let the smooth taste fool you. He's a meek guy. He loves God, and he makes it clear to people that that's the case, but he is not to be disrespected. Look it up. There's a moment when he stepped to LeBron James to let him know who was boss, and that year, guess what? They won a championship against the Golden State Warriors, a team that they were not supposed to beat. But I kind of feel for Frank Vogel, although it is what it is. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you agree with their decision. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Subscribe to the channel. Comment, hit that notification bell, and don't forget to watch the next video. We will be back soon.